Hi everyone and welcome back. I wanted to show you now what you can do with after you've completed a VO2 max workout, how you can kind of use the data to come up with things like their average pace, their mile pace, and figure out what percentage of their VO2 max is. If you missed the video in which I show you how you can come up with this workout where I came up with this very workout itself, it's in the description down below. I would suggest watching it first. So let's just take a look here. As we're doing this, what you will notice is their VO2 max of the kids that I haven't calculated is off to the side here if you want to kind of keep track, and that is from a VO2 max test that they did exactly 1 week before the workout itself. So we'll start with the milers because these are the easiest thing to come up with the average for. Because Jared was so tightly grouped here with his actual times, all the minutes being in the same area, all you have to do is just add up the seconds, and that's the easiest way to figure it out. So we'll add 59 plus 58 plus 56 plus 59, and then we'll divide by the 4 reps, and we'll see that he ran 458 on average for that day. Not too complex math, but if you don't know how to do it, it'd become a hassle if you try to add up all the seconds and then divide them. That's just a complete pain. So that might be a nice shortcut for some of you guys. As you're also doing this, you can actually see he's even so tightly grouped that it's like all in the 50s. So all you'd actually have to do on this one technically is add the 9 plus the 8 plus the 6 plus the 9 again and divide that by 4, and boom, you'd have your 58 because you knew it was there. Now, it wouldn't be the end of the world if Jared had run like 5:03. Would have still been in his range here. You would just add 63 if this first one was in 5:03, 63, 58, 56, 59, and then you would get the average, and if it ended up being 60 something, it'd be in that 5 minutes for the average. If you have somebody that for some reason just totally blows up, goes 4:59 and then goes like 6:01 or something like that, for whatever extra minutes in between, like you would just add 60 to get from 4 to 5, and then you would go like we said 6:01, you would add another 61, but you would divide it as if it was the same reps. So hopefully you don't have that end up happening. It makes things a little more complicated, and obviously the kid didn't handle the workout the way you'd want him to, but that's what you would do if somebody just had like a crazy rep like that. So let's look at Thomas here too, just to figure this one out to make sure that my math is correct. So we're going to add 25 plus 27 plus 28 plus 25. Divide that by 4, and we'll see 526 on the average. We don't have to do anything to get mile pace, so let's move on down here to the kids that were doing 1200. So let's look at, I don't know, let's look at Amir for this one. We're going to add 46 seconds plus 31 plus 23 plus 28. We're going to divide that by 4, and we'll see that Amir was 432 on the average here. And I'll show you guys how to come up with this mile pace in 1 second. But that's how you would do it for all these kids, so you get your average. I like to track it. The next week, if we do the same distance again, I would put the previous time just to kind of see their progress. But that's something you can do all the way down to get the average. Now, we don't need mile pace, as I mentioned, for these kids. So let's see the easiest way to come up with mile pace converting, say, at 1200 to what their mile pace is. And most people are familiar with the Pace Calculator website. It's a free website. I referenced it in the last video in which I show you guys how to come up with this workout. You just type in Pace Calculator, it's going to be the first one that comes up. So basically what you want to do is, let me clear all this out because I was playing around with it earlier. You would say, let's look at David's here. If David is running 428 on the average, you put that on the first one, the time bar. And then we want to look at what he did for 1200 meters, and then you can figure out mile pace. You can change this to kilometers, yards, miles, and you can change this to a bunch of different distances if you're looking for different things. I typically stick with miles just because it's easy for me, but you can do any of these other distances too. And we will click, and we will figure out that David was running at 5:59 mile pace that day. Looking at what his VO2 max is, that means he's probably going to be in a really good position when we actually calculate this in a second. Let's do another one here. Let's look at Lexi. Lexi was 5:15. And we just go ahead and change that first number. That's all you have to do. And then boom, 7:02. and we'll see that she was mile pace of 7:02. Nice and easy. The last one that's a little bit more complicated, not as many people use this maybe for training purposes, but there's a website that's just called Time Percentage Calculator. You type that in and you get this. I don't even know what that even says, but essentially it'll bring you to this other free website right here in which you can figure this out, which it's a little bit more tricky to kind of figure out because there's just kind of orders of how you have to do it, but it's actually really nice once you get to know it. Let's look at Jared first. The first line is going to be your 100%, whatever it is you're basing it on, and the second one is what you're trying to figure it out from. For the most part in these things. You can also do it obviously backwards if you get a number and you're trying to figure out what 100% of that number might be. If you're basing this off of being something else, and then set this percentage to something. Like I do this when I'm doing like a mile pace for somebody. Let's say someone goes out and does a mile in 5 minutes. And you typically run your mile at 110 to 112% of VO2 max. So let's just say at 110% if you put this in. If you had somebody run a mile, say in a meet, you didn't want to do a 2-mile test on them and you wanted to get a new VO2 max, you could just boom, see that their VO2 max is 530. 110. This is 110% of this right here. Okay, so another way that you can do it for other purposes, but for the sake of today, we'll do it based on starting with 100%. So Jared has a VO2 max of 457. And he averaged 458. Now, obviously, I wouldn't even have to do this. I would know this is going to come up with some version of close to 100%. Boom. He is at 100% working out on this day. Let's do the same thing here with Thomas. I'm going to put in his 100%, which is 526. His VO2 max from his last test the week before was 521. And he ran at, come on. It's giving me a problem. Oh, no, I actually did that wrong. 521 is his VO2 max. Did that in the wrong order. 526 is what he ran on that day. And so we'll see he was at 98%. He was at the slow end of his range, but still in that range that we are looking for this kind of development. Let's look at David. His VO2 max is 558. He ran 559. Again, I wouldn't really need to do this, but he is at a roundup 100% of his VO2 max. Perfect. Same thing here with Manny. Let's just do it for the sake of the demonstration. 601. He ran 602 pace. We're going to see the exact same thing. He is at a roundup 100% of his current VO2 max. So Thomas was the only one that was a little bit tricky there. If they're in the range, that's the most important thing, but it's just kind of nice to see something else you can kind of show them and track if you're coaching somebody in this situation. Let's look at Nia. Her VO2 max is 618. She ran 615 on this day. She was at 101%. Perfect. That's as fast as we'd want to make this. Let's look at Danny Boy. His VO2 max is 623. He ran 620 on the day. Boom. We are at 101%. Beautiful, beautiful job. These last two here, Jensen's VO2 max is 652. He ran at 655 on this day. So we are at 99%. Still within the range that we are looking for. And last up, let's look at Lexi. Lex has a VO2 max of 701. Again, she ran 702. So again, I don't really have to do this, but it's going to end up at a roundup 100%. So those are some of the things you can kind of track. You keep this week to week. Again, if we come back and do the same workout the next week, I would put another couple columns here with previous average, previous mile pace, and fill in the next column. Just more things that you can kind of take a look at and track the progress of your kids. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys in how to actually use this data from a workout to see how people actually did. If you like this video, please think about liking or subscribing. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments down below. And until next time, this has been Coachy TV.